Chapter 20: Income Inequality and Poverty. The great British Prime Minister Winston Churchill once summarized alternative economic systems as follows. The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries. Churchill's quip draws attention to two important facts. First, nations that use market mechanisms to allocate resources usually achieve greater prosperity than those that do not. Secondly, the prosperity that market economies produce is not shared equally. We begin our study of the distribution of income by addressing four questions of measurement. 1. How much inequality is there in our society? 2. How many people live in poverty? 3. What problems arise in measuring the amount of inequality? And 4. How often do people move between income classes? These measurement questions are the natural starting point from which to discuss public policies aimed at changing the distribution of income. Table 1 shows the income ranges for each of these groups, as well as for the top 5%. You can use this table to find where your family lies in the income distribution. The bottom fifth annual family income per year is under $27,218. The second fifth is between $27,218 and $48,502. The middle fifth is between $48,502 and $75,000. The fourth fifth is between $75,000 and $115,866. The top fifth is $115,866 and over, and the top 5% is $205,200 and over. In this table, you will see that the 5 different categories that was shown in the first table are explored again in another way. The bottom fifth, in year 2011, received 3.8% of all income. The second fifth received 9.3% of all income. The middle fifth, 15.1%. The fourth fifth, 23%. The top fifth, 48.9%. And the top fifth, 21.3%. As you can see from the table, the bottom fifth has always been around 4 to 5%, whereas the top fifth has always been around 40 to 50%. In this slide, we will talk about the inequality around the world. Measuring the inequality in different countries can be very difficult, as some countries collect individual incomes as opposed to the United States way of collecting family income. Due to variations in data collection, it can be very difficult. South Africa and Brazil have the least equal distribution of economic well-being. Japan and Ethiopia are the opposite, and they have the most equal distribution economic well-being. The United States on that list is ranked 8th, and that's worst distribution of economic well-being out of 25 different countries. A commonly used gauge of distribution of income is the poverty rate. The poverty rate is defined as the percentage of the population whose family income falls below an absolute level called the poverty line. It is set by the federal government at 3 times the cost of providing an adequate diet. And this poverty line is also set every year to adjust for changes in prices and family size. In 2011, the poverty line for a family of 4 was roughly $23,000. The poverty rate in 2011 was 15%. In 1959, the poverty rate was much higher than in 2011 at 22.4%, but that went down 14 years later in 1973 to 11.1%. Poverty is correlated with different groups. 1. Race. Blacks and Hispanics are 3 times more likely to live in poverty than are whites. 2. Age. Children are more likely than average to be members of poor families, as elderly are less likely than average to be poor. 3. Family composition. Families headed by a female adult without a spouse are 5 times as likely to live in poverty as families with a married couple. The following table shows different groups and their respective poverty rates. All people in the United States have a 15% poverty rate. White, not Hispanic people have a 9.8% poverty rate. Blacks, a 27.6% poverty rate. Hispanics, 25.3%. Asians, 12.3%. Children that are under the age of 18, a 21.9% poverty rate. The elderly over age 64, an 8.7% poverty rate. Married couple families, a 6.2% poverty rate. And in a female household with no spouse present, a poverty rate equal to 31.2%. As you can see from this table, the female household without a spouse has the highest amount of poverty, whereas the married couple family has the lowest amount of poverty at 6.2%. What people care about is not their incomes, but their ability to maintain a good standard of living. For at least 3 reasons, data on the income distribution and the poverty rate give an incomplete picture of inequality in living standards. In-kind transfers are transfers to the poor given in the form of goods and services rather than cash. This would include things such as housing vouchers, medical services such as Medicaid, and food stamps. In addition to in-kind transfers, the economic life cycle, which is the regular pattern of income variation over a person's life, show that young and working people often earn a low income, whereas experienced and mature people often earn a higher income. And then again, as you get older and you retire, you will earn a lower income. Incomes vary over people's lives, not only because of predictable life cycle variation, but also because of random and transitory forces. One year, a frost kills off the Florida orange crop, and Florida orange growers see their incomes fall temporarily. At the same time, the Florida frost drives up the price of oranges, and California orange growers see their incomes temporarily rise. The next year, the reverse might occur. To gauge inequality of living standards, the distribution of permanent income is more relevant than the distribution of annual income. Economic mobility, the movement of people between income classes, is significant in the U.S. economy. Movements up the income ladder can be due to good luck or hard work, and movements down the ladder can be due to bad luck or laziness. Some of this mobility reflects transitory variation in income, while some reflects more persistent changes in income. Because family income changes over time, temporary poverty is more common than the poverty rate suggests, but persistent poverty is less common. In a typical 10-year period, about 1 in 4 families falls below the poverty line in at least 1 year. Yet fewer than 3% of families are poor for 8 or more years. Another way to gauge economic mobility is the persistence of economic success from generation to generation. One result of this intergenerational economic mobility is that the U.S. economy is filled with self-made millionaires. According to one study, about 4 out of 5 millionaires made their money on their own, often by starting and building a business or by climbing the corporate ladder. Only 1 in 5 millionaires inherited his fortune. The political philosophy of redistributing income. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is the political philosophy according to which the government should choose policies to maximize the total utility, which is a measure of happiness or satisfaction to the individual, of everyone in society. Redistributing income is based on assumptions of diminishing marginal utility. An extra dollar earned for a poor person means more than an extra dollar earned to a rich person. As income increases, the extra well-being derived from an additional dollar of income falls. The objective is to increase overall utility in the individual. A second way of thinking about inequality might be called liberalism. Philosopher John Rawls develops this view in his book, A Theory of Justice. This book was first published in 1971, and it quickly became a classic in political philosophy. In designing public policies, we should aim to raise the welfare of the worst off person in society. That is, rather than maximizing the sum of everyone's utility, as a utilitarian would do, Rawls would maximize the minimum utility. Rawls' rule is called the Maximin criterion. Rawls' views are controversial, but the thought experiment he proposes has much appeal. In particular, this thought experiment allows us to consider the redistribution of income as a form of social insurance. That is, from the perspective of the original position behind the veil of ignorance, income redistribution is like an insurance policy. A third view of inequality is called libertarianism. The two views we have considered so far, utilitarianism and liberalism, both view the total income of society as a shared resource that a social planner can freely redistribute to achieve some social goal. By contrast, libertarians argue that society itself earns no income. Only individual members of society earn income. According to libertarians, the government should not take from some individuals and give to others to achieve any particular distribution of income. They believe that equality of opportunities is more important than equality of incomes, and that government should enforce individual rights to ensure everyone has the same opportunity to use their talents and achieve success. Poverty is one of the most difficult problems that policymakers face. Poor families are more likely than the overall population to experience homelessness, drug dependence, health problems, teenage pregnancy, illiteracy, unemployment, and low educational attainment. Members of poor families are both more likely to commit crimes and more likely to be victims of crimes. Although it is hard to separate the causes of poverty from the effects, there is no doubt that poverty is associated with various economic and social ills. Among the policies to reduce poverty are the minimum wage laws. They are very controversial, and advocates believe that they are a way of helping the working poor without any cost to the government. Critics, however, contend that it's hurting those who it is intended to help. It raises the cost of labor to firms and reduces the quantity of labor that firms demand. As a result, higher unemployment among groups affected by a minimum wage. Other policies to reduce poverty include welfare programs, negative income tax, in-kind transfers, and anti-poverty programs and work incentives.